Cocoa butter, coconut oil, shea butter, almond oil, the list goes on. The list that governs 30 minutes of every 24-hour day. 30 minutes devoted to self-love and self-care, devoted to loving my skin. When I was a little girl, my mom taught me to take care of my skin. She taught me to spend at least 30 minutes a day washing, exfoliating, moisturizing, loving every square inch of the skin that covers my body. As a child, I thought nothing of it. It was simply a part of my daily routine, just another task that my mother requested of me. Little did I know, those 30 minutes would shape the way I viewed and valued myself and my people forever. Some of you may be thinking that this is absurd. The fact that I spend 30 minutes every day caring for my skin is ridiculous and a waste of time. And at times, I felt the same way. There is no way that it is truly necessary for me to spend so much time taking care of my skin. Skin was created to protect us. It was made to withstand the hardships of every day. So why would I spend so much time making sure that it was soft? Did that not defeat its greater purpose? I thought. I was wrong. The time I spent loving my skin did not weaken it. It only embellished the superpower that was hidden within. This past summer, as I was walking through a grocery store, I was confronted by a woman who had good intentions, but who lacked the cultural intelligence to correctly articulate her feelings. The woman approached me, stroked my arm, and said, "Wow, you are so pretty for a dark girl." As those words flew from her mouth, like arrows from a bow, fully equipped to pierce my skin and leave a scar on my soul, an armor accumulated from my skincare routine protected me from her words. Those 30 minutes a day gave my skin the power to be tough enough not to allow her words to cut deep and leave a scar, and to be soft enough that I could fight her harsh words with kindness. Countless encounters like this forced me to value, to cherish those 30 minutes until they became my favorite part of every day. After 18 years of performing this daily routine, I finally come to the realization that my skincare goes deeper than the surface. Those 30 minutes taught me that my skin, my soft, coconut-smelling, toasted almond brown skin, matters. Those 30 minutes taught me that my skin is soft and gentle, yet tough and resilient. They taught me that woven into the threads of my skin are the whipping scars of my ancestors and the bruises from the daily blows of living a black life in a white world. Time and time again, this country and the society that governs it has told me that brown skin and the souls that inhabit it are worth nothing, that they are somehow innately less than, simply based on the levels of melanin flowing between their cells. As society tries to brand my people with labels of worthlessness and scar us with hatred, our melanated skin stands strong and tender, equipped to win every single battle. Those 30 minutes of love taught me that despite what the world may think, my melanated skin is beautiful. My skin radiates strength and glows with elegance. No one, no matter how harsh their words may be or how deeply they cut, no one can ever take away what those 30 minutes gave me. Soft, strong, beautiful, priceless, brown. My skin matters. I matter. All skin, in every shade, from stark white to jet black and everything in between. We matter. Thank you.
I am a wrestler. Now you might be thinking to yourselves, but it's true. I was in 6th grade, and amongst my various other goals, I simply wanted to become big and strong and to beat my older brother in a fight. I was 12 years old, a devoted theater kid, skinny to the point you could see my ribs, and famous for being the shortest kid in my grade. After years of being pushed around, having my head used as an armrest, and not having any way to defend myself, I decided it was time. Time to beef up and get gains. So, inspired by my older brother and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I, of all people to do so, signed up for wrestling that winter. I was 85 pounds, and I couldn't do more than 5 push-ups without collapsing. Problematic when the first warm-up of the day was to do 50 push-ups. The wrestling coach, Mr. Jepson, told me that I would get seriously injured in my very first match. My older brother Thomas, 3 years older than me, was also on the team at the time, and when we came home, he would practice his takedowns on me. Not wishing to be his personal punching bag anymore and avoid future spine snapping, I quit just 3 days into the season. Despite this setback, I started making some progress in my fitness the next year in 7th grade. I did tennis in the fall, rock climbing and weight training in the winter, and cross country in the spring. Then, on the weekends, I took Taekwondo and practiced my defense maneuvers whenever my brother tried to tackle me again. Seeing my progress, Mr. Jepson invited me to join the team again. Or at least, I thought it was because of my progress, but it dawned on me within a few weeks as to the real reason. My older brother, Thomas, who had already graduated middle school at that point, had been an all-star wrestler. His nickname was the Mentalist, because he would play mind games with his opponent before diving fast, grabbing their legs, and pinning them in one swift motion. As he was Mr. Jepson's prodigy wrestler and won multiple tournaments for the school, the coach hoped that I would turn out with a similar winning streak with just a little bit of training. Feeling more confident in my physical condition, I accepted, imagining myself finally beating my older brother in a fight after our hundreds of after-school battles. It was the best of decisions. It was the worst of decisions. Practices always started off with a 1-mile run. A loop around the entire school, including the lower school, middle school, and upper school, was about half a mile. So we would have to do 2 laps every single day before practice, no matter what. This no matter what policy included no matter the weather. The practices went from November to March, so there was multiple days I had to run through rain, colder rain, snow, and 1 blizzard. We would have to complete our mile under a certain time constraint, or else suffer an additional 2 push-ups for every minute late. I distinctly remember this time constraint starting immediately after the end of classes. So, as the school bell rung, I would make a mad dash for my locker, grab my change of clothes, run to the nearest bathroom to change instead of going to the locker room, perform a Superman spin around in the phone booth, clothes swap, run a 1/4 mile to the wrestling room, sign in, and then run an entire mile within a combined total of under 25 minutes. Then the hard part began. We rolled out the mats, wiped them down to prevent infection, then did 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, and 200 jumping jacks, intervaled with 1-minute planks. This was done from day 1 in order to break our bodies into a routine and condition us. We had 5 dropouts within the very first week. I was expected to be among them, but I refused, even though I cried more than I had sweat. I remember that after the first day, I woke up being unable to move due to the initial muscle fatigue, which then forced me to slowly roll out of bed until swiftly landing on my face. However, a few weeks later, I felt healthier than I have in my entire life. The process never became easier, though. I went from an A- student to a B- student, because I would come home from practice, walk upstairs, and collapse immediately onto my bed, waking up at 5 a.m. the next morning. Meanwhile, I went to tournaments, competing with various other local private schools, and my team asserted dominance at the majority of them. I never won a single match. In total, I wrestled in over 20 matches. I won a few rounds here and there, but never actually won a match. I might have tied around once or twice, but I never actually won a match. All the conditioning, all the harsh drilling, training, my efforts, my grades, in the end, none of it paid off. I went out there and gave it my all every single time, but every single time my opponent was just a little bit stronger, a little bit better, sometimes a lot stronger. No matter the reason, I still lost. But regardless, my teammates cheered loud for me each and every time. Mr. Jepson said almost every practice that though you go out onto the mat alone, wrestling is a team sport. You sweat together, cry together, run through a blizzard together, struggle together, stand together, and when you see your teammates giving their all and you yell your loudest in support and encouragement together. As you come together with your teammates, you sometimes form bonds stronger than that of family. In the end, I did get bigger, and people stopped pushing me around, but I got out of the wrestling experience so much more. When I applied to Blair, I think they thought I was going to be a wrestler. Though I obviously didn't end up being one, I found it funny to be on the outside perspective. When I look back at it all, I find that perspective of a world so abstract from the one I typically inhabit expanded my view so greatly. From there, I found that it's crucial to try things far from your comfort zone. Only then should you be allowed to make any proper judgments of other people. So, as a freshman, when people pointed at the wrestling table and laughed about how it's weird that the wrestlers always sit together at every meal, I laughed too. But I laughed because I understood it all too well. Thank you very much.
They're not here from Jackie. A few weeks ago, I read an article in the New York Times titled, "For an Asian American Family, the Cost of Education." In the article, the author Ng-Yow talks about the sacrifices her parents made to fund her college education at Yale and her MBA at Harvard or Stanford. Xiao writes, "My own experience in a solidly middle-class family suggests that Asians pay for college not with extraordinary wealth, but with extraordinary measures. The same is true for my family." I've been wanting to put words to these thoughts for a long time, but I never felt comfortable doing it. There's a thin line between complaining and vocalizing my insecurity and expressing my gratitude. That is the line I'm trying to tread today. 7th grade was the year I began going to private school. I also vividly remember 7th grade as the year when my mom stopped using Lancome and I started seeing fine lines on her face. In 8th grade, my parents sold my beloved childhood home in Beijing to fund my high school and college education. My parents sacrificed not only their money, but also their time. For 5 hours every day, my father drove me across the George Washington Bridge, from suburban New Jersey into New York City, down Riverside Drive, from the Upper West Side to the Upper East. My mom would often wake up at 5 a.m. or even earlier to make me breakfast before going off to work. Sorry. Beyond the millions of dollars my parents have invested in my private school education, in my tutors, and in my golf coaches, my parents have also invested thousands of hours of labor in me. And their hard work didn't just start when I was born. When my Stanford interviewer asked me, "Why do you work so hard in school?" a question he posed to every applicant, I told him about my parents, who came to the United States as graduate students in the 90s. While pursuing their master's degrees, both of my parents worked multiple jobs to cover the tuition that was not met by their scholarships. My dad was a lab technician at the Kimberly-Clark Corporation by day, a gas station attendant and short order cook by night. My mom was a waitress at the same Chinese restaurant. They lived on $60 a week, subsisting on a diet of rotisserie chicken and orange juice. Today, my parents send me to private school to give me the opportunities they did not have. My parents are not even American citizens, but for me, their success is a testament to the American dream. I have no reason not to work hard. I sought the highest grades in all of my classes not because my parents require them of me, as many other Asian parents do, but because every day I see my mom drinking Coke and coffee to stay awake during her conference calls, And I see my dad traveling to business conferences around the world, working 90-hour weeks as a 50-year-old, all to pay for my schooling. I've made fun of my Chinese immigrant parents for working too hard, for not being more fun, for knowing very little about pop culture. But I know now that it is impossible to distinguish my successes from my parents' labor. Looking back on the past 17 years, I've realized that I almost never tell my parents I love you, and the same is true for them. Instead, they gravitate towards a different expression for love, 我疼你, which translates to, I hurt for you. It's not used for passionate love, but the love between family members, an implicit love that's seldom expressed vocally. This is an expression that comes to mind every time I think about the pain of my parents' sacrifice and the pain of the high standards I set for myself and for them. I keep a gratitude journal where every day I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. They're little things like being able to crash in my friend Jackie's room to write, or getting my favorite matcha latte at Starbucks. There are also big things like my mom flying out to visit colleges with me, or having the opportunity to attend Blair. Gratitude journaling is the last thing I do before I go to bed. And every night I go to sleep knowing that there are people in the world who love me, and I love them too. My parents are actually here today. Mom and Dad, I know I would not be where I am today without you. I don't know yet how to repay you, and I don't know if I will ever be able to. Mama, Baba, 我爱你. For now, all I can say is thank you.